talk, real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, the show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens. My name is Kim Creighton. I am your host, as always. And I have Jenny Jones on the line. She's our guest. Are you there, Jenny?
I'm here.
All right. So why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell them the exciting things you're doing, and then we'll get right into the conversation.
Okay, great. Well, I am the managing editor of a website called Heart of Gold, and we've been around for a few years. We cater to girls 13 to 19 who are doing amazing, cool, creative things in the areas of entrepreneurship, social activism, and volunteerism. So what I do is I kind of curate the articles and content that we have on the site, and I get to interact with all these great teams. So I love my job.
Well, cool. And so before we finish this show, make sure you give us the information on how we can contact you guys.
Okay, great.
All right. All right, so what's 21st century skill will we be talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is creativity.
Okay, so why don't let's start by you defining creativity.
Okay, well, I looked up the technical definition in the dictionary, which is the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work, which is kind of the obvious definition of creativity. But the way I look at it is kind of, giving yourself permission to express yourself and your ideas, because I feel like a lot of times, no matter what age you are, we often suppress our creative instincts. And maybe it's because your inner critic is telling you that your idea isn't good enough, or you're afraid of what might happen if your idea actually becomes reality. So I think creativity is basically just kind of letting those great ideas you have out and turning that light bulb on.
It's so funny because you use that, the thing that stuck out from your definition for me is giving yourself permission. And it's interesting how the levels of how we give ourselves permission. We give ourselves permission to do things oftentimes that we often regret. But it seems such a challenge. It's so difficult for us to give ourselves permission for those things that are going to help us flourish. I remember, being a young person and just doing things, and now I sit back and what the heck was I thinking? Yet I was so afraid to express myself.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of times we have a checklist of things that we have to do before we'll let ourselves pursue something that's creative, because maybe we view it as frivolous or, something that doesn't benefit the bottom line. But, like you said, letting yourself actually do it can benefit you in ways you never dreamed. So,
and I love how, again, you just said something, because when I was growing up, creativity was considered, quote unquote, frivolous. Now it's an essential part of every business school, every entrepreneur program, every, science, whatever. Everybody's studying creativity now. And before, it was thought of as, what are you doing? You're doodling, you're wasting your time, blah, blah, blah. And now the value of creativity is, the science has proved it. So it's not just these airy-fairy people walking around, playing flutes and, just, but it's, now the science is, we believe everything once the science says. So, now the science is giving it credence and value. So now everybody's being creative or sees the value in creativity.
Right. And I think the way teens are expressing their creativity is they're kind of being creative on their own terms, because, I was reading this NPR piece about how reading and writing scores on the SATs are at all-time lows. But, writing contests like the Scholastic Awards have seen a 35% increase in submissions. So, teens are being creative. They're just kind of doing it on their own terms and maybe expressing themselves in outlets that, like you were saying, we didn't maybe have back in the day. So it's kind of cool to see more opportunities out there for teens.
And also, the research is now coming out. You know how video games was, oh, you're wasting your time. But there's researchers is saying time and time again, particularly with those strategy games like World of Warcraft and all those kind of games, that's helping cognitive development as well and creativity. So, so those things that we often see as play. Why are you wasting your time? I guess that's where I'm kind of going with this. Is it's thankful, it's refreshing that now that's no longer seen as a waste of time. You know, young people should be out playing. Young people should be out doodling. They should be writing plays and putting on plays and drawing and skateboarding, whatever it is. And it's no longer, well, by the mainstream, it's still, you know, you might still have a parent or so think, you know, you're wasting your time, but now it's the science and business, you know, oh my God, business is saying, you know, you need to be creative. And it's interesting because that just hit on another thing. You know, you think about all these, like when I'm thinking Facebook or whatever, and they're back in the 90s when they were first out, you know, when they had these very unstructured and work environments, people were like, oh, look at these kids playing or whatever, and those were the most creative companies that were out there, as opposed to these ones that had all this hierarchy and, you know, you had to fight to get to the window office and everybody was in a cubicle. You find that what people were calling frivolous, what young people do naturally, was feeding creativity.
Right, and I liked what you said about, you know, that even something like playing a video game, you know, which some people might look at as wasting time, you know, that could even become a viable career path for young people. And I think creative careers have kind of really flourished in the last decade or so. And a lot of it has to do with social media and technology, because an enterprising young kid can go make their own app or, you know, create their own video game, or what's that one website? I can't remember the name of it, Extra Normal or something like that, where you can kind of create this whole animated script and program the characters to speak your dialogue. So there's all these really, really cool pieces of technology that kids can use to express their creativity, and I think a lot of them are being really enterprising and turning that into businesses, and that's actually what we focus on a lot on our website on Heart of Gold.
Well, tell us about that. Give us some examples of how you see young people using creativity. Because the one thing that I can say now that the technology is there, that's no longer a barrier. So young people have an advantage that I didn't have, because for me to have a business, it was going to take me to, you know, all we had was brick and mortar, or you lived in your house and you did a bunch of running around. There was no selling to creating using technology in that way, or selling using technology in that way. So how are young people that you're in contact with on a daily basis harnessing that creativity and using it for profitability?
Right. Well, a lot of these kids, you know, they don't necessarily have access to venture capital or funding, and some of them do, which is truly astounding. But a lot of these girls are starting successful businesses from the comforts of their bedroom. One that I thought about was Lonnie Lazari, who we've featured a few times on our website. You know, she started making these sugar scrubs, like a body scrub, just as a Christmas gift, because it was something that her and her mom would do for fun. And she started getting requests from local stores to carry them in the stores, and it started growing from there. And she actually ended up going on the show Shark Tank and getting her business funded.
I was about to say, is that the girl who decided not to finish high school right now?
I'm not sure what her school situation is, but she's very young.
I know
she's
in high school. Yes, she was in high school when she first started. Yeah,
she operates a multi-million-dollar beauty business all within the span of a few years.
Exactly.
And she's not alone. There's so many girls. There's another girl that we profiled. Her name is Shaliza Kassam, and she started a nonprofit organization called Children's Birthday Miracles. And what was cool about her was what you were mentioning about how girls are just harnessing social media and technology. She basically wanted to start this organization that would offer birthday parties to kids in need. And so she started using, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to recruit volunteers, and she would take pictures of these birthday parties that they were doing at the local homeless shelter, and she used it to attract more sponsors to her business to show, what they were doing and show the value of what they were doing. And I think she's only a year into it, and she now has McDonald's in Canada as a sponsor. So,
oh, wow.
These girls are just really resourceful, and they have a big heart, no pun intended, because our website is called Heart of Gold. But, a lot of these girls are starting, real change. Another girl, Allison Alstrom, she's 18, and she read the book Generation Change and was so moved by it that she started a retail boutique in the Northern California area. It's called Threads for Teens, and it provides full outfits to high school girls who can't necessarily afford clothing. So, it's just really cool to see all the different things that girls are doing, and that's what we focus on at Heart of Gold. We try to tell their stories, and more than that, we try to give advice to other girls who might be interested in doing these kinds of things.
Cool, and I love the entrepreneurial part in that, because I tell young people all the time, again, going back to when I was young, I never worked in fast food, but, that was the main option for most young people. Now right now I've been spending the last 2 days building the website for the show, creating a website for the show. If you have coding skills, you can sit in your house and make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You are so right. And I actually did work
as a young person.
I worked at McDonald's for 3 years, so I was Generation X McDonald's employee.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and there's nothing wrong with that job, but now you don't have to take that job. That's not a job you have to have. That's not as a young person, that was one of the few jobs that we did, kind of small retail, McDonald's. Thankfully, I was able to do office work. So that's what I did, and I did work at a hospital for a minute. But, yeah, their options of creating money, creating opportunities for themselves are so vast. And it's interesting to see the different ideas you're talking about, because not only you said there was a for-profit, but there's nonprofit. These kids, these young people they do have hearts of gold. They see, even if they come from the crappiest of situations, they see what the needs are, and giving the right support, they can create something that allows them to make better for the next person, or even for themselves. Just to create something from, this is my finished situation, or even from the great situation. Like you're saying, these young people aren't they're not doing well on ACT or SAT tests. Think about some young person who could tutor their peers or whatever in those areas.
Yeah, we see a lot of kids starting tutoring businesses and things that can help their peers excel in school. And you're right, they're identifying a need and they're filling it based on their unique vantage point as a teen, which is great. And teens and 20-somethings are the early adapters, a lot of times in the cool new technology, so they know it better than anyone. So, like you said, why not capitalize on that knowledge and make money on it?
Exactly.
The Thiel Fellowship, I don't know if you've heard about that, but
the who?
Peter Thiel is, I believe he's the founder of PayPal, and he started a program where he's actually, and I might be getting this wrong just a little bit, but I believe he's encouraging kids to drop out of college and start their own business, and he's giving them a nest egg to do it with. So a lot of these really brilliant young people are applying for this Thiel Fellowship, and they have an idea for a startup, and they're just going for it. And he's rewarding the ones that he believes have value with, funding to start it up. So being that this program has been around for about a year or two now, I think it'll really be interesting to see how these businesses flourish now that they're kind of in motion.
And what's funny, though, is you're saying brilliant. What's funny is you don't even have to be brilliant. You could be that C student. You can be that student who has absolutely no interest in any more schooling, but someone's telling you, doggone it, you got to finish it or whatever. And with what's out there now and the environment that is allowing you to thrive on creativity, you can realize potential that you didn't even recognize you had. And that's another good thing. I'm finding that a lot of young people who are really, because I knew I didn't like school, but I mean, for a very long time, I thought I was dumb because literally that's what one of my teachers told me when I was in 6, 7, and my mom said, you're not going to, because he's going to be my homeroom teacher. She's like, no, I got to change school because you're not going to be dealing with that man for another year. But he literally called me and said I was dumb. And so for a very long time, I thought I was dumb, and I thought I just didn't, there was something wrong with me. But my mom couldn't understand why because that was before when standardized tests really kind of had some kind of something. But I would just kept excelling on these tests, and she's like, I just don't understand what's going on. And it wasn't until I got to graduate school, literally, until I got to graduate school, that I realized I do like learning. I like research. I don't like people telling me everything that I need to do. Give me my parameters and let me use my creativity to come up with something that meets your needs. And that's when I realized I am a voracious researcher now. Did not have a clue about that. And that's about creativity. You know, when you're doing real research, you're creating something. You're synthesizing information. You're doing all kinds of things. And so with this new environment, the expectation for young people to be creative is so much higher.
Right. Well, and I'm glad that you eventually realized and embraced your strengths, because I think hearing a message like that at a young age can really kind of cripple someone.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Creatively.
Yes.
And I'd love to see schools start nurturing the different aspects of intelligence more. You know, someone who's really creative might not be business savvy, or someone might be really emotionally intelligent. You know, all of those things can help people be successful in life. And like you said, you know, you don't have to have every piece of the puzzle to succeed. But you know, you do need to nurture your strengths and have people that believe in them. So I'm glad that you kind of took your own power and just went for it. Because I think that messages like that can really feed your inner critic.
Yeah, well, see, it almost definitely did. But the thing that kind of, I'm not going to say balanced it, but kind of helped me out was that I was always an oddball and weird. So I never kind of fit in with everybody else. So even though his monologue was in my head, I didn't have that thing of I have to be like everybody else, which would have really been worse, would have made things much worse for me. So I continued to, I started writing plays when I was in the 3rd grade. So I continued to do those kind of things.
Yep.
And did not thankfully connect the fact that though he was calling me dumb, that I was doing these things on my own. So thankfully that didn't, I was too naive just, you know, to be able to connect that dot. But it was a very long time before I literally worked through that whole conversation. And one thing I do want to talk about is everybody's talking about STEM. Everybody's talking about STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. Great. I believe especially in technology education, everybody needs. I think every young person needs to learn how to code. That is their language. It's English and coding. That's their language. But what I do believe is STEM can be creative, first of all, because a brain surgeon can be very creative in what they're doing. So it's not just the artsy-fartsy kind of people, as people think they are. You can be creative in all kinds of things. Twitter is a creation. Somebody created it out of absolutely nothing. But also because everybody's pushing so much on STEM, let's not forget that everybody is not, when I say everybody needs to code, I'm not saying everybody needs to code, learn that language to do it as a business. But every artist is now using technology to create art. So they need to be see of it. I guess what I mean by less as a tool. Less as a toy, and start seeing it more as a tool.
Right. Well, and what we've learned is that there is a dearth of women in the STEM fields. We've done a lot of reporting on STEM on our website because we do a monthly theme where we focus on anything from, politics to music, and we do have a STEM month. So we try to feature women that are doing really, really cool things in STEM. And, sadly, we've learned that there aren't enough of them. So there's a lot of really cool organizations out there like Girls Who Code that are trying to get more women involved and engaged in the STEM field. And we actually featured a young high school girl who won a big competition. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was a Google competition or something like that. And like you said, she used her creativity to basically experiment and come up with a solution for her asthma allergies.
Oh, wow.
I unfortunately don't have all the information in front of me, but these girls are doing high-level research, and it's really impressive.
Our viewers, if they're interested, can Google girl who, see, that's what I'm saying, use the tools. You don't have to give them all the information. Google, if you're interested, girl who discovered her own asthma something, and you'll come up with the name of it. I do that all the time. I give them part of the information and make them go figure it out. But, yeah.
Well, if you go to heartofgoldgirls.com, I just looked up her name. Her name was Naomi Shah, S-H-A-H. Okay. But we're really trying to share the stories of these girls and help empower other girls to follow in their footsteps. So
exactly.
We'd love for you to come to the site and check it out.
Oh, exactly. And so that's the thing. It's like STEM is not. It's that catch-22. You have these people. It feels so polarized. You have these people who think STEM is all, and it's totally left brain, and then and it's not. It's all of it. STEM can be very creative, and yes, we need more people in it because that's the language of the future. STEM is the language of the future. Now, for those people who are not really interested in STEM, how can you soften STEM? How can you be more creative? How can you use it to further what you're interested in?
Mhm. Right. I mean, it's long been shown that girls have traditionally tended to gravitate toward, the English and reading side of things. But based on what we were talking about before, how, that seems to be declining on the whole for teens, it seems like they're expanding more into just their area of interest, whether it be STEM or, history or English or whatever it is. I think girls are really kind of zoning in where their comfort zone is and just going for it, which is great.
And everything you just said has a technology piece to it. I don't know what just popped in my head, but I was thinking like an oceanographer. You know how they're going, without that technology, we couldn't be going to the bottom of the ocean like we're doing. And that's science. I mean, that's, or when you think about, there's this guy who, the coral reefs, they were being, I forgot, is it in the Gulf of Mexico? I think it's somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico. And they're being destroyed by the tourists, going to see the coral reef. So this guy has created these coral-like structures that are actually people's faces, or it's like this museum at the bottom of the ocean that people are going to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just did it for the people on Today's Show. He did their whole bodies. And so he's putting these things in the ocean, and then that's what the new coral is growing on. And so that's art. But there's a whole lot of creativity and science and technology that had to go with that.
Right. Well, I actually do a lot of food writing, and, it's cool to see how science is manifesting itself there, too, because when you said the word oceanographer, it reminded me of an interview I did recently with a chef here in Los Angeles, and he's working with an oceanographer up in Santa Barbara to find the best stone crabs, and they also practice molecular gastronomy at their restaurant, which is basically the use of science to create food. So, like you said,
isn't that the stuff that is smoking? Is that the with the
well, actually, that's
like dry ice or
nitrogen.
Something?
Yeah, they can make ice cream using liquid nitrogen now, which is one of the coolest things ever. So you're right. Pretty much anything you're interested in, there at this point of the game, where we are with the world, there's going to be a STEM component to it.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to give us 3 tips that you've decided are important for young people to use to develop their creativity.
Yes, definitely. Can't wait.
Follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio. New or unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
All right. We're finishing up our conversation with Jen Jones. And what is your last name, Jen?
Well, I'm actually married now. My full name is Jen Jones Donatelli. So it's kind of a mouthful, but that is my name.
All right, and so make sure once you give us those tips that you also tell us everything we need to know about connecting with your website, connecting with you guys.
Okay. Well, my first tip for teens to enhance their creativity is to follow a technique that I'm a big fan of, which comes from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And
old
one
book,
of her
very old book.
It's a great book. It's a timeless book that a lot of people still follow and use to overcome creative blocks. But she suggests that you go on what she calls an artist date, and you're supposed to do it by yourself. If you can, try to do it once a week. And what it is just something that fills you up creatively. So maybe it's going to a museum or going to the beach and writing in your journal, or, going and taking photos of a local garden or something like that. Just anything that you enjoy that you think can pump up your creativity. And you'd be surprised how taking that time for yourself can really free you up creatively. Another thing I suggest is to get curious. and what that means is to kind of just listen and look at the world through a different lens. Noticing street art or the flower growing through the cracks, or maybe talking to that street performer about his life story. I think these can all be inspirations for songs or stories or other really cool creative endeavors. Just kind of being curious and noticing things, because I think it's easy to get stuck looking at your phone all the time. So when you're out and about, maybe just take a moment to notice and get curious, and you'd be surprised what that can spark. And finally, and this is a little bit of a plug for the website, but use the resources that are out there. The internet is literally at your fingertips, and there's so many websites devoted to, empowering young teens to express themselves. So whether it's something like New Moon Girls, which is a magazine that teens can write for, or, Heart of Gold, where you can come and learn about teens doing cool things and get advice and tips on anything from how to start your own business to starting a charity. There's just so many great resources, and I think taking advantage of them can really be a smart way to move forward with your own creativity.
All right. So with that, can you give us all your contact information?
Sure. So we are at heartofgoldgirls.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all the usual suspects. Our Twitter handle is at heartofgoldgirl, and I won't go through all the other URLs, but if you come to our website, heartofgoldgirls.com, you can find links to all those things. And, interact with us. We're always looking for guest bloggers, people to share their stories, do Q&As with. If you're a teen that's doing something cool and interesting, we want to hear from you. So drop us a line. There's a place on our website where you can contact us, and we would love to hear from you.
Well, thank you so much. Guys, listen, you have a great resource in Heart of Gold Girls. That's why I bring these people on the show, so you don't have to be out there figuring it out on your own. There are people out there who who want to help, who have the resources to help, and who are looking for you to reach out to them. So thank you, Jen Jones, for joining us today.
You are so welcome. It was great talking to you, Kim.
Thank you. And there's hopefully there's something we can do together in the very near future.
That would be great. I look forward to hearing the podcast.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.